Recently, we had an actor go viral here on YouTube for postulating that the afterlife is different than what we've been told. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. I'm going to get into that and actually so much more in this video. We're going to talk about first what's going on with these streaming services, and we're going to get into some of these different actors and actresses of recent, some interesting stories. We have a weird thing going on with power outages in other countries and also them talking about it here. We're going to get into that. A weird prediction about Christmas. We'll get into that as well. And a ton of other stuff, just some of the weird stuff going on around us. Let's just get going here. And of course, the actor I'm referring to that went viral is Kirk Cameron. He obviously is from those old days on TV. I think it was Growing Pains he was on. And he recently came out saying he believes that hell is not the way we were told growing up. And of course, I thought it was really intriguing because I've covered this topic before in the old days here on my channel. We're going to get into that in a little bit because the backlash is getting pretty ridiculous against Kirk Cameron on this whole topic of hell. Is it forever? Are you in an infinite barbecue, or do you cease to exist? I mean, this is how some are framing it. And we're going to get into that in a little bit because I find it to be very intriguing how all these people are pouncing on him. They're all saying he's just going with his feelings and it's not scriptural. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. First, I wanted to get into some of these other stories we have here. Streamers are raising prices at an astonishing rate. Here's how much more you're paying. Obviously, you've probably noticed prices for everything are going up. The average American household spending $78 a month now. You end up finding yourself jumping over to a new streaming service every other time you turn around because your show swapped over to a new one. This seems to be the latest thing that they do to get you on board to all the streaming services. So you're spending a massive amount of money a month. And, you know, it's just kind of weird. We've seen sort of what's been going on with Hollywood. It's been dying, actually, in LA. All these various production houses are empty, vacant. No one's going in and making movies really there anymore. I did a video covering that, I think a couple days ago, where Mel Gibson was asked about this because some guy who was obviously into making documentaries, he had been going around to various locations and saw that no one was there. The whole place is becoming a ghost town. Almost 50,000 people have lost their jobs here. This is because everyone's sick of woke and the whole rainbow. We want real movies. We want people like Chris Pratt representing us. By the way, today is his wife's birthday. He was putting that out on X. He recently went to Rome. I was thinking maybe he would star in a movie there because Mel is actually shooting his sequel to The Passion right now there. But actually, it looks like it's something else. So I was right. He was doing an official documentary on the tomb of St. Peter. So that's interesting. So that's why he was there. I was thinking he wasn't just there for a vacation. So he is doing some shooting there, some filming. Vatican confirmed the actor is filming the Vatican necropolis and its basilica, guiding the public through history. So that's kind of interesting. So anyway, so you got that going on. You have Mel doing stuff. You have a lot of things going on where new companies are rising up with actual good messages. Our president is backing Paramount with this whole Warner Brother deal, trying to take it from Netflix so that our future is a little bit better than what we've been dealing with for the last 5 years. And like I said, we're going to get into a ton of stuff. We have this weird prediction for Christmas. And then we're going to get into this whole major controversy with Kirk Cameron. First, I'm going to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 3 months plus an extra month, 4 months worth for $6.97. You're going to definitely want to get that if you have not already. We had Kim Clement predict our current president. We had him talk about a Kennedy joining him. This is way back in 2009 he predicted this. He has a new prediction, not a new prediction. The guy's been dead for 8 years, but he has a prediction from 2014 that many will fall in the fall, referring to those that are corrupt at the top. We're starting to see that happen. Is it going to be this fall? We only have 9 days left, it looks like, or 8 days, or whatever it is. That's interesting. He also talks about a super volcano in the exact same prediction. Strangely, we do have a super volcano off the coast of Oregon or Washington. It's like a few hundred miles out that is about ready to go. We have one also, I think it was in Italy, right? We have also Yellowstone. We have numerous other people who have very good track record of predicting things correct, saying there is a volcanic eruption coming very soon. These seem to be all correlating. Of course, again, I only believe it if it happens. If they have a good track record and shown things get correct in the past, I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to you because you've had a good track record, right? So you might want to get ready for whatever might be happening next. We know there's a lot of crazy stuff going on around us. Link is in the description of this book here as well. The Lost Ways, how your great-great-grandfather lived without electricity, had a bit of cellar, do things around the house as they did in the old days. Hundreds of pages illustrated. You're going to definitely need that before the power goes out. By the way, that's one of the stories. You might want to get the book. It's only $37. Get the printed version. Obviously, you don't want the printed version. You'll want the electronic version for a power outage book. You're going to be reading it with the power out. Hundreds of flights canceled as blackout leaves 1.4 million without power in Brazil. This was from, I think at this point, 2 days ago. And I think it's 2 days ago, 1 or 2 days ago. We had also this story come out yesterday. Apparently, Russia has some new technology. Oh, interesting. To cause the exact same thing. Power outages. And very strangely, I had a dream about 1.5 years ago, and the entire dream's come true except for the ending of it. And at the ending of the dream, I'm in a city. Of course, this could be symbolic. I don't know. The city had no power. All of a sudden, I tried to go into Dunkin' Donuts and the power went out. And I looked out and it started raining and I was under a lean-to and I was looking out over the city. It looked very dark. There was almost no power anywhere. It could be symbolic, but I kind of feel like maybe it wasn't. A lot of people talking about that. And we even had Cash here on Sean Ryan's show talking about the exact same topic 2 days ago. I don't think that's a coincidence. All these things at the exact same time. Perhaps something may actually happen soon here. We've seen this before in Europe, and that was completely preventable. They set themselves up with all this green energy without any backup with normal coal-fired power plants or nuclear power plants. And then when it spiked, the entire power went out in Germany and a number of other countries. What was that, like maybe almost a year ago at this point? It's kind of ridiculous, but this is how, and you have to ask yourself, did they do that on purpose? Or is it just negligence? Or is it because of the whole woke, mind virus? I don't know. Who knows, right? It's hard to say. At any rate, so this is the man I was referring to. He's dead. He's been dead for almost 8 years at this point. He predicted our current president, said he would have 2 terms, said Kennedy would join him all way before he ran. Back in 2009, he predicted this stuff. Imagine trying to predict a Kennedy would join someone on the right and thinking that would come true. Clearly, he must have heard something from God. At least I would think that's what it was. Kind of hard to predict things like that correctly and have other predictions come true as well. Way too many for it to be just a mere coincidence, although a lot of the people that are criticizing Kirk Cameron tend to be the ones that don't believe in miracles. So if you're watching this because of Kirk Cameron, you're probably, I don't believe in this mumbo jumbo of miracles. Okay. But what's interesting is you had people like John MacArthur highlighting St. Augustine for his cessationism beliefs when St. Augustine talked about seeing someone raise another person from the dead in his own lifetime with his own 2 eyes watching. Kind of hard to believe that St. Augustine thought the same way as John MacArthur. He clearly didn't. It's kind of like taking your hero of the past and just painting him the whatever way you want him to look. Kind of like all these pictures of Jesus where they make him look like Asian Jesus or white Jesus or black Jesus. No, you can't just turn whoever you want into whatever you want him to be. Right? So it's interesting. You had also Carolyn here predicting about a volcano going off around the time silver and gold go up, which silver and gold just recently went up. Volponi predicted that literally to the right week, which is very bizarre if it's a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. Even experts were shocked that he did that, which is kind of funny because he's not an expert in silver or gold. So then you had, of course, Troy Black, which a lot of people wonder about this guy, but he's had literally 100 predictions come true. I mean, he is a little bit, he's not exactly, he doesn't talk like I do, let's just put it that way. But he has some interesting prediction for Christmas as well. And it seems like a lot of these all align in a very strange manner. Talking about sort of like volcanoes, super volcanoes, talking about power outages, talking about this stuff coming in time for Christmas. It sounds weird. It sounds like a lot of crazy stuff's going to be happening very, very soon here, if any of these guys are correct. All right? I hope so. Of course, this guy's been correct way too many times. Personally, I hope it's this year that he's right about the many will fall in the fall, because I would like to see our country go the right direction. Finally, it hasn't been going the right direction for a long, long time. It would be awesome if it did. At any rate, so getting over to the whole Kirk Cameron thing, this guy, like I said, he was an actor on Growing Pains, right? Wasn't that the show he was? I watched it when I was a kid. It's like a million years ago. Kirk Cameron, Growing Pains. Yeah, I was right. Okay, so he was on this show back in the dinosaur days. Was it 80s? I guess we're all dinosaurs, right? Yeah, I'm 50 now. I turned 50 this year. We have, of course, Kirk Cameron, and I've been liking his takes of recent. I've been liking his takes, but all these other people that have been around for a very long time, Justin Peters, Ray Comfort, who was actually Kirk Cameron's friend. I mean, dude, these guys have been hanging around for 20, 30 years. I remember like in the 2000s, these guys were hanging out. Ray Comfort and Kirk Cameron were hanging out for like the last 20 years. Easy last 20 years. You got also, was it Ken Ham? Ken Ham coming out against him. All these people coming out against him. And so I find this interesting because I don't think Kirk Cameron, I don't know if he did or not because I didn't watch the entire thing. I watched parts of it. I don't know if he got into the ancient Greek. I'm guessing he probably did. It's pretty long. I would assume he did. Maybe he didn't, because all these responses to Kirk Cameron are like, you're just going with your feelings. You just don't like people being in an infinite barbecue. That's your whole thing. You're just about feelings. This seems to be the response from a lot of these people. But clearly, if you actually get beyond the English and go back into the ancient Greek and look at it for what it says, you'll start to understand why what we've been commonly told is extremely simplistic. Because the term hell, as you read in the English, in the Bible, is usually not just one Greek word. Okay, it's multiple Greek words, all translated one English word. Tartarus, Gehenna, Hades, Sheol, you got Paradisos, which that's paradise, Abraham's bosom, that's Abraham's bosom. But you have all these different other words, Tartarus, Gehenna, Hades, all being translated HE double hockey sticks. And these are all three different, completely different words that don't mean the same thing at all. And honestly, I don't think the modern day idea of the term hell fits any of them. What people commonly think of when they think of the word hell today doesn't actually fit any of these three words. Not because the word couldn't mean the same thing, but more so because of how people just automatically think of the word hell. When they think of hell, they think of infinite barbecue. This is what they think. You die, you go to the infinite barbecue, you never get out. This is basically what a lot of people think. Now, this is not exactly what's being said in the ancient languages. For one, Hades is the afterlife. Hades in Greek is Sheol in Hebrew, which means the afterlife. It doesn't mean hell per se. If you look at the ante-Nicene early church fathers, they refer to Hades as the afterlife, the intermediate state, which meant where the good and evil go. The good go to the upper levels of the intermediate state of Hades. The evil go to the lower levels of the intermediate state of Hades. Obviously, the lower level is barbecue-ish. I'm not trying to be funny, and the higher levels are paradise-ish. You know what I mean? So this was kind of their concept, and that before the judgment seat of Christ. So you're in this temporary state of Hades, the afterlife, waiting for the judgment seat. The judgment seat's here. You got this temporary, and I'm telling you what they thought in the early church, which was almost a consensus, by the way. And I could pull this all up, but it would be a 2-hour video, and I'm not trying to do a 2-hour video here. But nevertheless, I bought a book called, I think it was called Early Christian Terms and Dictionary, something like that. And it's got basically all straight up quotes from the ante-Nicene early church fathers. Basically, the first 300 years of the church, quotes on every topic in topical format. So you go look up hell, and it'll have every quote on hell from all these guys. You go look up baptism, every quote from all of them. So I literally read through it. I thought it was interesting, right? So the idea is today, what commonly is taught in the church is that you either go to heaven or hell. You die, you go to heaven, or you go to hell. It's for infinity. You either go to hell forever or you go to heaven forever. And that's it. End of story. Nothing else. Very, very cut and dry. You die, heaven, you die, hell, forever. Done. That's basically how it's explained in most common Protestant churches today. What I'm telling you is that's not actually even biblical, because Revelation tells you there is a new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem, and also a lake of fire. And that Hades, hell, is thrown in the lake of fire. So Hades is clearly not the same place as the lake of fire because it's thrown into it. So obviously Hades isn't forever because it's thrown into the lake of fire. The current heaven isn't forever because it's replaced by new heaven. The current earth isn't forever because it's replaced by the new earth and the new Jerusalem. This is why current, modern, everyday, common teaching on hell and the afterlife is not even accurate to even Revelation. Revelation makes it very clear that they're replaced, that heaven is replaced by a new heaven. Hell, Hades, is replaced by the lake of fire. So clearly it's not the same thing. But that's another story. But my point is just that simplistic stuff I've just told you so far makes it very obvious that what they commonly tell us is not even accurate. It's a simplistic form of what's the truth. Now let's watch some of the stuff. Let's watch Justin Peters about this. Check this out.
I used to hold the position of conscious eternal torment because that's just what I was taught by people that I love and trust.
I have not found that the soul is necessarily always eternal. The Bible does not talk about the eternality of the wicked. All I've found is the eternality of the righteous.
Kirk Cameron has just raised a lot of eyebrows by saying he no longer believes in eternal, conscious torment. In other words, hell.
So, okay, we're going to play more of it in a second here. I just wanted to show you something really quick. So, this whole concept that the Bible is very emphatic about it being eternal conscious torment is not actually accurate. I don't even have the verse in front of me. Okay. Let me just pull up this verse here, and then I'll show you what I'm referring to. I'm going to show you the ancient Greek on it. I thought I would have had it open, but apparently not. Here we are. Matthew 25:46. This is the very common verse everyone points to. And I think this is relevant to what we're talking about, especially what he just said there. And these shall go into everlasting punishment, the just into life everlasting. So this term everlasting is the term aeonin, right here, aeonin. So the term aeonin is being used to describe both life or heaven and also the punishment or hell. Okay? Now the term for hell here is kolassis or punishment. This term here, let me open it in, I have to open it, let's just open it this way. Shoot. Here we go. There it is. So you can see it here. I don't know if I'm getting closer or not really. Kolassis, penal infliction, punishment, torment, correction, punishment, penalty. You go to the original meaning, and what do you get? To prune, like as in trees and wings. To curb, to check, to restrain, to chastise, to correct. So this term kolassis comes from a term that means to prune, like you prune a tree. Now, when you prune a tree, you're not torturing a tree. You're trying to make it better. So this concept of punishment there is a beneficial punishment because it's a pruning punishment. It's a punishment to make you better. It's not just simply because you need it or because you deserve it, but more so to try to change you. It says here, everlasting. Now, if you look up this term, and its meaning with Google AI, or actually pretty much any AI. And it will tell you that it's commonly translated eternal, everlasting, or age-long. If you go to some of these early commentaries from the 1800s, like Adam Clarke, some of these lexicons, they'll indicate that it came from the concept of an age long. It comes from aeon, which means age, or eon, which is where we get eons and eons from. Its core sense relates to an age or period, implying something perpetual. Now, the reason why they commonly say it has to be eternal is because when you see this verse here, it says that life is eternal or heaven's eternal. Then, since it's the exact same descriptor, they say, well, then must be hell is eternal as well. But in reality, as I indicated earlier, this current heaven is replaced by new heaven in Revelation, which means the current heaven is not eternal. It's an age-long heaven that is replaced at the end of time, after the books are opened, after the judgment seat of Christ, new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem. Maybe I got to show that because some people may not know what I'm referring to. It's in Revelation. Okay, Revelation, let me just show you this. Here it is. New heaven, new earth. Let's see what the AI says. Are you going to say something to me? The new heaven and new earth refers to the final eternal state of creation after the present world has passed away, characterized by a direct presence of God among the people, absence of sin, and suffering and death. So let's type in a little bit differently. New heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem, and lake of fire. Aren't these all new places after the judgment seat of Christ in Revelation? See what it says. This is a common question. Revelation, there's a chronological order to the events, and they do not all happen at the same time or new places created after the same judgment. Oh, that's interesting. So the judgment seat of Christ, also known as Bema Seat judgment, this event generally is believed to occur in heaven after the rapture of the church, before the tribulation period of the millennial reign. So that's interesting. So it depends on how you use your eschatology here. So my eschatology is different than the common pre-trib rapture. Lake of fire, this place is the final eternal judgment, the beast, false prophet. Okay. New heaven, new earth, New Jerusalem. This vision is the new heaven. No, it's saying the same thing I'm saying. What are they? Okay, look, so they're confused. Okay, so they are saying the same thing. So the lake of fire is after the judgment seat, new heaven, new earth, New Jerusalem, after the great white throne judgment. Both are from after the judgment seat of Christ, period. Now, when did the judgment seat of Christ happen? According to some, they believe it's after the rapture of the church, but before the tribulation period. I don't believe that. Okay, I don't believe that. I think it's actually after all of it's done. Okay, but that's my opinion. So the point is that, as you can see here, it's not as simplistic as we thought it was. They tell you, oh, it's just very simplistic. But in reality, if you go look at the ante-Nicene early church fathers, let me pull that up. Let's see what the AI knows about this. What is the intermediate state referred to by the ante-Nicene church fathers? Because a lot of Protestants don't know anything about the early church because they don't read it. Okay? The intermediate state is referred to by the ante-Nicene church fathers, those writing between the apostolic age of Council of Nicaea 325. So before then. And between that and the end. Right, okay. Describe the conscious existence of the soul in a specific location, Hades, Sheol, between the moment of physical death and the final bodily resurrection and judgment. See? Boom. The exact thing I just told you guys. Hades is the afterlife, called the intermediate state, until the judgment seat. The fathers were nearly unanimous in believing that the dead were conscious in the state, in contrast to the minority view of soul sleep. Hades and Sheol was a real supernatural place. This realm was typically divided into two distinct regions, reflecting the parable of the rich man and Lazarus in Luke 16. A place of rest and comfort and anticipation for the righteous, or Abraham's bosom, or paradise, paradisos, the word that Jesus said to the man on the cross next to him. A place of darkness and punishment and fearful expectation of future judgment for the wicked. This is literally what the disciples of the disciples taught. The ante-Nicene church fathers, between the apostolic age, John, Paul, etc., and the Council of Nicaea 325. So between, what is that, 50 AD and 325, whatever it is, something like that, or 80 AD, whatever it is. You get the idea. So basically 0 AD to 325, this is those teachings. A lot of them were literally the disciples of disciples, disciples of the apostles, and they all were unanimously in agreement on this, yet for some reason Christians today have no clue about this whatsoever. Protestants, most of them, including the leadership, with the exception of maybe James White and a couple others, actually read any of the early church fathers. Okay, like he knows some of it. James White does. A little bit. I mean, he tends to focus on Augustine a lot, which, of course, I think he was after. Was he the ante-Nicene? When was he? I'm trying to remember. He's around. Oh, yeah, I know. 380 or something like that. What was he? St. Augustine time. I can't spell. Wow, really? 6:45 p.m.? That's not what I'm asking. Okay. Not the island. Not the time zone. When did he live? there we go. Maybe that's a better way to write it. 354 to 430. Yeah, I was right. 380, basically. So 350 to 430, slightly after the ante-Nicene time frame. He was after the ante-Nicene time. Okay? So all of them were in agreement about this, just like I explained. Literally all the Christians from the early church all believe this, but no Christians today, almost like very few know this, and very few believe this. When we die, we go to the afterlife. The afterlife has upper levels and lower levels. It's called Hades. The upper levels are paradise, as Jesus mentioned, or Abraham's bosom, as he mentioned in the parable of Lazarus. The lower levels are basically hell, like Lazarus was in the parable. And you wait there until the judgment seat of Christ. And then once you're judged, then you're put in either new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem, or the lake of fire. That's literally what it is. And about half of the early church fathers believed you can get saved. Actually, maybe more than half. I think it is more than half. I don't know the exact amount, but more than half of them believed you could get saved in the afterlife. You died, you're in Hades, waiting for this judgment seat that's not come yet. You're like, oh no, like I'm in a hellish place. This really sucks bad. Is there a way out of here? Well, you would think maybe there isn't one, but perhaps there is. That's the question. Obviously, in the case of Lazarus and the rich man, right? The rich man, he couldn't get out of there, or he couldn't get any water. There's a big chasm, and clearly it didn't look like Jesus was going to get him out, did it? Not really. So you do have near-death experiences of people going to hell and calling out to Jesus and then getting to heaven in near-death experiences, but some of you may just discount those as fake or whatever. So that's a theological debate. Could you get saved in the afterlife? I think you could, actually. I don't think everyone could. I think some are just straight up on death row. They're going to be like the rich man. They're going to be just sitting there, and then they're going to get thrown in the lake of fire. That's what I think. So I could be wrong. I could be right. Who knows? We'll find out one day, right? At any rate, so that's sort of my theory on all that. I kind of feel like, it's an interesting topic. And the thing was, let me play some of these other guys. Let's play some of these other guys. So you had here Ray Comfort. Ray Comfort was a longtime friend of Kirk Cameron. I think he still is a friend of his. I think he's very upset about what he's teaching or questioning here. Although Kirk Cameron said he's not 100% sure he's right, which again, just like me, I don't ever say I'm 100% right on these things because I look at it as all theoreticals. I look at the ancient languages. I lean towards this being the correct answer to it. If you even look at St. Augustine's own writings, he even says that he was in the minority opinion. He believed in eternal conscious torment. St. Augustine did, around 400 AD. He said, my peers, most of them don't agree with me. There was two other opinions. One was annihilationism, which is what Kirk Cameron's talking about, which is what I'm talking about here. And the other one is universalism, or not. No, I wouldn't say universalism, because people will automatically think of the Universalist Church. It's not the same thing. Universal restorationism, let's just call it that, which would have been from Origen. Now, Origen's different than the Origenists. That's another thing. It's kind of like Calvin and Calvinists. Yeah, Calvinists I don't think the Calvinists actually agree with Calvin really fully, because I've looked at Calvin's writings and I've looked at what Calvinists teach, and I don't think they agree actually fully. I think Calvin actually taught more repentance than the Calvinists today do in some cases, honestly, based on his writings. But if you look at Origen versus the Origenists, Origen, I think, was probably better on track. The Origenists got off track. They got kind of weird and they got condemned in, I think, the Fifth Ecumenical Council. But Origen, it's not just of Origen. There's a lot of people from his, from Alexandria, which is, there's multiple schools of teaching. There's like 5 schools of thought. Rome shut them all down but one. The one that St. Augustine was in. Oh, that's weird. You had Alexandria, Antioch. You had a lot of other ones. You had the North African School of Theology, which is the Latin School of Theology, which is the one that Augustine was from. So you got North African, which is Latin, which is St. Augustine. You had Clement of Alexandria, Origen from Alexandria. You had Antioch. You had all these, you had different teachers. You had Tertullian, Irenaeus, Justin Martyr. You had all these different teachers in the ante-Nicene time frame with different opinions. You even had Hermes, Shepherd of Hermes. I can tell you Hermes's opinion. It was kind of weird. He believed that you could get saved in the afterlife only if you were saved in this life, and then you fell away, and then you died and you're in the afterlife. Then you could get saved still. Like, that was his opinion. I'm not saying he's right. I don't think he was, actually, but you got other ones that said that you die and then that's it. You had St. Augustine said there was eternal torment. You had some that you cease to exist. Some of them taught that eventually God will save you through the punishments of hell, meaning like the beneficial discipline brings you to the right state heart-wise, and then you accept Christ as your Savior, and you somehow get out of there. I think Origen was wrong partially. I think Hermes was wrong partially. I think Augustine was wrong partially. This is my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I kind of look at it like as a prison. You got death row and you got temporary prison, like you get out after 5 years, right? Like, let's say you're in prison. You're in this hellish place. It sucks really bad, but you accept Christ in there eventually. You get out. Maybe some are so evil they can't even accept Christ. Maybe it's like what C.S. Lewis wrote. C.S. Lewis talking about they went so far from the light that there's no way back, right? They're just infinitely gone. And maybe that's what, like Pol Pot or Stalin or someone like that. There's no way for them to get saved because they're so evil. It's just impossible in the afterlife. But maybe there's like an old grandma that never heard the gospel in Japan, and she died and went to hell. Is it really that fair that she never heard the gospel? Couldn't Jesus come down there and tell her, hey, I'm the gospel. You can believe in me and get out of here? I mean, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I think it's better than just assuming all of Japan goes to hell, 99% of them, because they don't believe in Christ, because they never heard the gospel or whatever. Of course, you have Ray Comfort. He has to deal with that question. How are you going to deal with that question, Ray? How are you going to deal with the Japanese who never heard the gospel, or maybe some remote tribe in the middle of nowhere? They never heard the gospel and they're dead and they're in hell. What are you going to do then? Right? Well, here we have Ray Comfort talking about this whole Kirk Cameron thing. Check it out.
Some of you have been asking whether or not Living Waters holds this position, and whether or not Kirk still works with us in an official capacity. The answer is no. While we believe Kirk is sincere, we believe that conditional mortality and annihilationism are erroneous views, and that the Bible's clear teaching on hell is known as eternal conscious torment. We firmly believe that this is the only correct biblical view.
Something interesting to point out and note. I showed you that verse in Matthew 25:46, right? It's Colossus Eianos, which means eternal punishment. That's how it's translated. When actually it means age-long beneficial discipline or punishment if you go to the ancient languages. And that age-long could be interpreted as eternal in some cases, maybe not. You don't know. We know the exact same term, Eianos, was used to describe Jonah in the belly of the whale. Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days, not for infinite amount of years, right? So it's like the term forever in modern English. If I say I'm standing in line forever, it doesn't mean I'm literally been standing there for 5 million years and I'm still standing there. It means it feels like it's been forever. So the term Eianos is very similar to the word forever in English, where it means just a long period of time. It means like this sucks. This is really bad. Okay. It doesn't mean like literally infinite amount of years. Okay. And so the Pharisees in Jesus' time believed in eternal conscious torment, as Ray Comfort's talking about there. They didn't use the same Greek words. They used different Greek words because they wanted to make it very clear they meant eternal, literally forever, conscious forever, torment forever. So they would use the word aietos, which meant literally eternal forever, period. It means it literally. Aietos, and they would use the word timorian to mean torment. And there's actually multiple Greek words for punishment or torment. They would use torment, which is not a beneficial discipline. So they would use literally forever, not beneficial discipline or punishment, which is commonly what Christians believe today, pretty much, is the same thing that the Pharisees in Jesus' time taught. Jesus taught something slightly different. He said, age long, a very hell of a long time that you don't want to live in and you don't want to be there. It's going to be bad. Okay? Period of time, which we don't know the exact length of. Beneficial discipline, meaning it actually helps you, believe it or not. It's not like literally torture. So that was the difference between what Jesus taught and what the Pharisees taught. And I find it ironic that Christians today teach what the Pharisees taught, not what Jesus taught. And they don't even know it because our English translations make you think that what the Pharisees taught in Jesus' time was correct. And this is what I find to be very interesting about the whole thing. So I think Kirk Cameron's actually right. I studied this for many, many, many years. Now, if you go to Ken Ham basically says that Kirk Cameron came to this viewpoint because of feelings and emotions, because he doesn't like the idea of people being in an infinite barbecue. I don't think that's why Kirk Cameron, I mean, that might have been what initially got Kirk Cameron to wonder about it, not because of his feelings, but more so because of who God is. If God is love, why would he put you in an infinite barbecue? Now, here's a good, and now this is going to be a comparison that's going to really upset some people, but think of Kim Jong-il, you know, from Korea, right? Now, he didn't put anybody in an infinite barbecue, right? But he's put people in camps, and they've been there for a very long period of time, and I guarantee you it's not as bad as this hell that everyone talks about. And they did one little sin against this guy. Now, is that just what Kim Jong-il did? You see what I mean? So Kim Jong-il, you do a little sin against Kim Jong-il, you end up in this place for a long, long period of time. Is that a just punishment? Again, that's the same concept that Kirk Cameron's asking is, does it make sense with God's love and justice to put a infinite payment on a finite crime? So it would make more sense that they would cease to exist. Ceasing to exist makes more sense than infinite barbecue, because it serves God's justice, but it also shows that he's a loving God. He's not going to he's not making an infinite barbecue. Okay. So that's, I think, so, and that's where he came from, maybe with his start. And I don't think that's necessarily feeling based. I think that's looking at God's character and asking, does this make sense with God's character? And then going into the ancient Greek and seeing, well, actually these words can mean, if you slant them, you can slant them whatever way you want. You can slant it towards eternal, which I think is wrong, because Jonah was not in the belly of the whale for infinite years. You can look at it as it is and say, well, maybe it just means a very long period of time. We don't know the exact duration of it. Maybe it's an age, what is an age? 1,000 years? We don't know how long it is. Okay. It says that the devil is in the lake of fire forever and ever. Does that mean maybe 1,000 years and another 1,000 years? And then he ceases to exist? Because it's called the second death. So that's what you have to ask yourself. The world needs to know that as rushing into the direction of final judgment, only prospect of judgment can sober it and bring it to its senses, and it is the business of preaching the gospel to tell the world that, not to say that God loves everybody and therefore everybody is going to heaven. Our Lord preached judgment. So this is interesting. So it's pitting two parts of God against itself. We should be preaching both God's love and judgment, not God's judgment and not his love, or God's love only and not his judgment. I think a lot of this comes back to, being too feeling oriented or being too much dominated on judgment. It's love and judgment. It's not one or the other. This is like wrong way to frame it, I think. God loves everyone, and he also judges a righteous judgment. So that's the way I look at it. I look at it differently than him. At any rate, that's my video. I'm kind of wondering what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.